Hold up.
Okay, last thing we want to talk about is group boards. Now, the reason why group boards are important is because they allow you to reach a greater audience. Now, if you remember one of the very first videos I showed you, Pinterest looks at several analytics. Okay, you've got your Pinterest profile reach, you've got a number of people you reach, and you've got activity from your website. So mine's gone down a little bit because I haven't pinned, as you can see in the last couple of days. But you can see that the people I reach is generally going up, but my Pinterest profile, the reach is going down. That's because, like I said, I haven't pinned for a while. Now, if you don't pin for a while, then that means that in the smart feed, your pins won't be showing up as much. But if other people are pinning for you, then your reach can still go up, and that's what's happening right now. So if I didn't have pins on other people's boards, then this reach would most probably be going down as well. So with the help of group boards, my profile was dormant for about a couple of months, but with the help of group boards, you can see in such a short amount of time, I was able to go from 983 impressions up to 13,000 impressions in a short span. So this is the August the 28th, and this is November the 1st. So you can see how powerful group boards can be. Now, this was a combination of promoted pins and the group boards, but the group boards is what brought a majority of the traffic back to my pins. Now, this is third-party pins as well as pins from my domain. So I'll show you what group boards look like. Now, when you join group boards, you'll see them on your profile, and on your profile they will have a look like this. So it'll be a small board with a small circle in the middle. So this small circle in the middle just states that it has more than one contributor. Now, some of these group boards are big, some of these group boards are a lot smaller, and you can actually create your own group boards. All you have to do to create your own group board is click on your board, and then you just invite somebody to your board. You will then see that you will have the same icon in the bottom left hand side of that board. A group board can help you generate more, reach more people. You can help you create more content without having to do that much work. But what you really want to do is join as many group boards as possible that is relevant to your industry. Now, there's no limit to how many group boards you can or should join. The most important thing is that you are able to comply with the rules. Otherwise, some of them are very active in terms of booting people out. Make sure that the pins that you share can help the viewers. So for instance, if you joined a group board for a food board, but then you wanted to add pins about pets, it wouldn't make sense because no one would be viewing those pins, and most probably you'll be booted out by the owner anyway because it's not on brand. So you want to make sure that it's relevant to your ideal audience. You can keep up, you can stick with the rules, and the group board is active. If the group board is not active, then you'll be pretty much pinning for no reason, because nobody will be able to view your pins, and most importantly, nobody will be clicking on your pins or resaving your pins and clicking through to your website. The end goal of every group board should be to get more eyes on your pins and to get people clicking through to your website. That's the ultimate goal. So ideally, I would be auditing the group boards every so often. So you'd really want to see how many of your pins are getting repins from those group boards, and I'll show you how to check that later. And if your pins are not generally getting that many repins, then I would revisit as to whether you should really be a member of that group board or not. And that would just mean deleting yourself from the group board and focusing on the group boards that are actually bringing you traffic. So when it comes to joining a group board, what you do is, let's have a look at this group board here, and I'll show you what generally happens. So when you look at the group board, I did mention creating group board descriptions. Okay, so what happens with group boards, they generally put the joining instructions in that description. So if you look at this one, it says to pin to this group board, follow the board, Generally, if you follow a profile, you automatically follow all boards. But what some people tend to do is they may follow a board on your profile, but not you. This is why sometimes you can have more followers of a board than actual followers from your profile. So you follow the board, email the lady, and then the account will be reviewed and approved. So when you're reviewing, once you're emailing the blog owners, you don't want to put any long email. You just want to say something like, "Hi, my name is Rose. I am the owner of rosiedoesdigital.com, and I've been following your board on Pinterest, and I'd really love to contribute to your blog. For your reference, here is my Pinterest URL for you to view. And if you feel that I'm a great fit, I look forward to contributing to your board." Simple email, and I will add a template that I generally use underneath this video for you to just copy and paste and tweak as you see fit. Now, what you have to look out for as well is any pinning instructions. So it does say here, or it doesn't say anything here. So some boards will state that you can only pin 5 times a day or 3 times a day, or they say you can only share one pin. You can only repin the same pin every 30 days or every 60 days. So you have to make sure that you adhere to those rules as close as possible. Sometimes when you're using automation tools like Tailwind, which is something that I use, you might find that it's hard to keep to those rules. But I'll show you a trick that I use with Tailwind to make sure that when I'm pinning those boards, I always make sure that I comply with the rules. I've been booted out of one board, just so you know, so it does happen in case you're thinking it never happens. So how can you find some group boards? Okay, so finding group boards there's 3 ways that I like to find group boards. I like to look at competitor profiles, and once I look at competitor profiles, I like to see what group boards they're a part of, because that's a really good indication as to how well my pins may do, if my competitor pins are doing quite well. So I'm going to show you Elisa's Pinterest profile. So what I would do is, Elisa and I are not doing exactly the same thing, but if she was a competitor, I would look at her profile, then I'd have a look at all of her group boards. I'd have a look at any group boards that I'm not a part of, and a group board that I feel my pins could do really well on. So I think I'm actually part of most of her group boards, but if not, I would have a look at it. I would look at the instructions to join. You'll find that some people will say you need to send in an email. Some will send you to opt-in page where you have to opt in and then they'll add you. And others may say just to send them a message via the Pinterest profile. So if you're wondering how on earth do I join these group boards, make sure you're reading the group board description. That's the only way to do it. Another way that I like to join group boards is Facebook. I will send a message, or I'll look out in some Facebook groups and just say, I'm looking for group boards to join. If you blog about business or finance or marketing, please let me know your group boards below. And that's another really good way to join a board, especially when some boards are new. They may be looking for as many people as possible to jump into those group boards. Some are more elite. They may say you need to have X amount of followers before you can join the group board, but you won't know until you look at the group descriptions, and you won't know until you ask. So those are 2 ways. And another way that I like to look for group boards is Pingroupie. So pingroupie.com is a website that actually lists most group boards for you to join. So you can see here at the moment that they've got a random group boards. I haven't entered any keywords at the moment. It will tell you the number of pins that these boards have, the number of collaborators. So this is the amount of people that are actually pinning to the board, and the number of followers. So this is the number of followers that are actually viewing the pins from that board. So for me, I am looking for something that has many followers, because the more followers a board has, then the more eyes on my pins. I prefer a board that doesn't have that many collaborators, but they are a couple of boards that I'm on that have a lot of collaborators, but I'm still doing okay. And I like to look at the number of pins. The number of pins normally gives me an indication as to how active the board is. So let's say, for instance, our pets, I look at this board, I may want to look at the description. The description would just be the same description that I showed you before on the group board. And it will have instructions on how you can join that group board. So rather than going back to profile, after you see the name here, you can actually find all the information you want right here. So these stats are up to date because it says that the last crawl on these boards were 3 days ago. What I may do sometimes is one thing I like to do when I get here is I will enter a title just to see what comes up. So as I've entered the title, I can see these group boards: shop online, support small businesses, small business group board. I will look at the description and see if any of these descriptions will match the kind of board that I want to join, and if there's any joining instructions. And then I will do what's necessary to join that board, either message them on Pinterest, send them an email, or join via landing page, whatever it is they want. You can also select categories here. If you want to just focus on board in a specific category, then you can order by the number of pins, collaborators, followers, likes, repins, and you can send or descend the order, and then enter any keywords in the title description if you think that will help hone in the type of boards that you want to join. So like I said, when looking for a good group board to join, I want to look for a board that has many followers, because many followers means more eyes on my pins, not too many collaborators, and loads of pins, because it just means that they're pinning to the board quite frequently. So a board that looks interesting to me is maybe this one: advertise your business products and services. It has 29,000 pins, 347 collaborators, and 14,000 followers. So this looks like an okay size board for me. Like I said, it's a matter of seeing how well your pins do on these boards. And if you find after a certain amount of time you're just not getting the amount of repins that you'd like, then you can remove yourself off the boards. So a testing period that I like to give is a month to 2 months to see how well the pins are doing, especially if you're not going to be pinning that frequently. But generally, if a board says I can pin maybe 3 times a day, I am pinning those 3 pins every day, consistently. And again, you can make it easier by using automation tools, which I will get to later on. Now, in terms of how often or what you should pin on group boards, the jury is out on this one. You will see many trainings. Some will say you should follow the 80-20 rule: 80% of your pins, 20% of other people's pins, or they'll say do it the other way: 20% of your pins, 80% of other people's pins. I prefer to do it 50-50. 50% of my pins are pinned to other people's boards, and 50% are third-party pins. The reason I say this is the ultimate goal of Pinterest is to get more traffic to your website and get more leads from that traffic that comes to your website. If you're not pinning your pins to other people's boards or even to your own boards, how do you expect to grow the traffic to your website? Now, the things that I'd say you have to be careful for is repinning the same thing all the time. Now, if you repin the same thing all the time, then yes, you might get an audience that's a bit fatigued. They're seeing the same thing over and over again. This is why it's so important to ensure that you're creating content consistently so people can expect different things from you each time they come on Pinterest. I've experienced this myself when I stopped creating content for a certain amount of time. Pins that may have been doing well then were not doing so well now because they were seeing the same pin over and over again. So ensure that I'd recommend 50% your pins, 50% of third-party pins. Ensure that you're creating new content consistently. Consistently doesn't mean every day, every 2 days. Consistently means creating content to a schedule that you can keep. If it's 1 post a week, it's 1 post a week. If it's 1 lead page a week, a lead page to a free offer, then it's one offer a week. Whatever you can do, stick to that, and at least that way your audience will be well aware how often to expect new content from you. So that should help you get a start on group boards. So like I said, you can find group boards by looking at competitor Pinterest profiles, asking in Facebook groups, or even on your Facebook profile, you can find out if any of your friends have Facebook groups that they want you to join. And then you can also use Pin Groupie to find boards to join. Make sure you're pinning 50% of your content to your profile and to group profiles. And remember, in the last video I said having a group board just for your pins, so make sure that you're pinning new pins into that group board as well, and that should help you increase your traffic, your page views and traffic from Pinterest to your blog or your website.